Hello, everyone, and welcome. I hope you enjoyed that little teaser of an intro. Very important for us to show that to you all because we've got a lot of art to show, and a lot of it has to do with what you just saw in that amazing Spider-Man video. With that said, I'm Will Schick, Director of Product Development. I'm here with Creative Director Dallas Kemp and Art Director Josh Colon.
How you guys doing?
Oh, that video! I'm so excited.
You can't sleep on any AMG panel. You'll never know what you're going to see.
Can't.
You just never know.
You just never know. We like to keep things like going, but we got a whole lot of content that's going to be based off that video and all of the Crisis Protocol panels. So we've got a lot of cool art to show you and talk about. We're going to be talking even more about all of the amazing Spider-Man Wave stuff on Saturday's Marvel Crisis Protocol panel. So you definitely want to not miss any of that stuff. It's going to be great. I've been waiting a long time to get to this point. Josh, you made that video as the marketing guy like a while ago. Like I feel like it was like last summer. So
it was my last duty, I think, as marketing guy was to make that video. So yeah, it's end of an era, you know?
Yeah. Well, we're here for the new era, so let's dive into the art of Marvel Crisis Protocol. Take us away, Art Director Josh.
So welcome everyone to the art of Marvel Crisis Protocol. This panel is talking a little bit about the ideas and the process behind the art for MCP that we all know and love. I am the art director, so my job is mainly to find artists, work with them, plan stuff out with them, and then basically make sure that I can keep my boss, creative director Dallas Kemp, and his boss, Will Schick, happy with our art decisions and the final product. It's really collaborative, right? Like pretty much everything in AMG is a super collaborative process, so we're always feeding off each other and our lifelong love of comics, right? So as fans of the game know, there are two general categories of MCP art, and that's character art and team tactics cards, right? So we can show the first one if you want. Shit.
Oh, we're already there.
We have so much. We have so much to show.
I like how Josh is like taking command of this.
Yeah,
I have to. Someone has to be the grown up for once.
He's just like, bring up my art, servant. Bring up my art. Like, all right, here you go, Josh. You're in control. You know, I remember when the tables were turned. I used to tell you to bring things up on the screen.
I know, man. How the tables have turned. How times have changed. Obviously, people that know the player game, they will know that characters have two sides, a healthy and an injured side. And it's really important for us to be able to capture the personality on both sides, right? We want, like when we do Wolverine, we want to make sure that Wolverine feels like Wolverine healthy, and when we do Wolverine injured, right? So for our first example, for Deadpool, as you can see, it's one of my favorite ones. We definitely did our best to capture both that sort of manic, crazy, sort of lunatic, goofy, fourth wall breaking side, and is healthy, but when he's injured, he takes things a little bit more serious, right?
Yeah. This was a fun one because, part of the process to kind of explain like what we go through is Josh and the artist work together to create a whole bunch of different pose options. It's very similar to how Dallas and the sculpting crew work on getting a pose for miniatures. So we see a whole lot of different like layouts. You have Deadpool leaping in action, Deadpool with sword out, Deadpool with blaster guns out, Deadpool doing this, that, and the other thing. And then it's kind of our collaborative work between the three of us to go through and look at the different options and kind of choose one that's going to fit the stat card properly, because you do have this space to consider. And then also that's going to fit the character like Josh is saying. And one of the fun things with Deadpool was we had goofy options and we had serious options, and we were talking about it, and I don't remember who brought it up, but they were like, what if we did a mix? What if we did goofy and we did serious? Because I think Josh super loved kind of the goofy ballerina pose. I was looking for something a little more serious from Deadpool, and we're like, well, the game rules have this kind of dichotomy of Deadpool goofing off, Deadpool finally getting serious. What if we represented that on the art? And so that's kind of like where we dove in on this one, and we have these two very different flavors of the character.
That's absolutely true. And the artist, Gary Daniels, did a great job with this one. he managed to sneak in a little bit of the fun in the injured side with the candy coming out the pouch. Like, it's one of my favorite little details on this piece.
I was just looking at that, and I'd actually forgotten that was part of the details
Mm-hmm.
until just now. And I was just like, oh man, the candy's falling out of the pocket. It's amazing.
And then, but yeah, so that's that. We can go to the next one. Will Schick, if you're okay with that. It's kind of the same.
I got you, Josh. I got you.
Would you stop laughing at me? I have to be a professional. I still have another 50 minutes on this panel. I have to be professional. But it's the same. It's the same idea, right? We always have to make sure that the character feels the same, no matter. Feels like the character, no matter what side they're at. So for Mr. Sinister, we obviously went with sort of the classic mad scientist, egomaniacal, pose that we really love. His injured side is one of my favorites ever, because it was actually one of the few times I got an idea through that I thought was not going to make it in, which is, if you read the comics, Mr. Sinister actually has complete control of his body and his cells. So when he takes damage, he could have a lot of heavy damage on him, and he can just like regenerate it. So if you look closely on his injured side, you'll see there's kind of like this like T-1000 kind of like holes on his body, right? It doesn't mean he's down and out, but he's definitely hurting, right? I absolutely love this one a lot. I think we captured it really well by Tyler Walpole, the great Tyler Walpole.
Yeah, and it's always an interesting discussion about, what is a character like versus healthy versus injured. So you have characters that are very brash and full of bravado when they're healthy, but then they become a little more like conservative or closed off or more defensive when they're injured. And then you have the characters that when the chips are down and they've been injured, they come back even harder. And
right.
And that's something that we try to keep in mind as well, not just through the game rules, but also through the art itself. We want those characters to feel right. You see, when you see Spider-Man in his healthy side, he's there. But when you see that grim determination on the really damaged side, when he just looks like he's gotten run over by a semi-truck, but you can feel that, like, okay, I'm going to stick with this. I can do this all day, as Chad is saying, with Captain America, those kinds of things. So making sure that character feels proper based on the side is also a really fun thing to do. And fairly or not, oftentimes the villains look really, they look really unbeatable on their healthy side, and they often look a little cowardly on their injured side, like when the chips are down. They're always ready to fight another day.
Absolutely. And then this one kind of captures that same idea too, that by the time I usually get the art brief, the miniature is usually far along. Not always, but the miniature is most of the time usually far along. And we try to make sure that we use the miniature as reference for the art as much as possible. Sometimes, though, because the miniature is so detailed, right, it's in 3 dimensions, that it might be too much for the art style, so sometimes we simplify it. But, with the guidance of Dallas, trying very, very hard to make sure that we follow the miniature as much as humanly possible. And this one's almost a 1-for-1, I think. That Mr. Sinister is 1-for-1. This next one is pretty much a 1-for-1 too. Carnage. He's a sharp boy. He's got a lot of pointy, spindly, sharp things, both in the art and in the miniature, right?
Yeah, I think Carnage was a fun one. We obviously talked a lot about capturing what we did in the miniature form that you can see in the video. We really pushed the sculpting on him to make those symbiotic tendrils, to give him that motion and that aggressive, like, crazed serial killer Cletus Cassidy feel. And I think where we wound up on the art here was really fun. I know Dallas had a lot to say about how we went about doing Carnage and how to bring him to life in both aspects of the character.
Yeah, that miniature, I mean, I know we're talking about the art, but that miniature was just, that character just drove that miniature to me.
100%.
And I think Josh, like, the artist in you, like, worked and you got that same ferocity, because that's what you want. Ferocity has to be Carnage. I like using an adjective to describe an adjective.
and obviously the sort of you'll see in the mini, which you might see sometime this weekend. You never know. Keep your eyes open. And in the art, it's all about movement, right? Like if you read the comics, if you've seen the cartoon, like Carnage is always moving, but his symbiote in particular is so intense and so ferocious. It's never in control. It's always moving. It's always sort of like flailing around, and we really.
No, Josh.
Josh!
He just got booted. Oh, he's back.
No,
We're back, Josh.
Yay!
It's all working. Yay!
You left and then you came back.
Everything's perfect. Let's go on to the next character then.
Well, I'm gonna mess with your template because I'm in control now and I can do that.
Yeah, you are. You're the boss.
We talk about how Carnage is moving now. Eagle-eyed folk today, when we unveiled the global campaign for Civil War this morning, might have caught this little piece of art. And I feel like if we're going to talk about Carnage, if you want to talk about one of my favorite pieces from this Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man wave that's coming out, like this one to me is everything that I wanted. I remember like writing the brief and to kind of walk through the process of how we come up with team tactic cards. So the characters are obviously defined very much by the character concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas and I sit down, we discuss, okay, this character's coming up. We go through and we pick out a lot of the costume styles and we pull out of art reference and we say, okay, we want to have this version of the character. They're going to be wearing this suit. Sculpting is going to have a problem with this part, so we'll pull in this element from the costume or things like that. And that obviously goes back into the character art itself. When it comes to team tactic card art, we basically get to design our own comic book art panel. And we approach these things a little differently. Sometimes it's like we want to do an interior comic book panel piece, so there's a lot of action, there's a lot of craziness. Sometimes we go more like comic cover, so it's more stoic action with a lot more design. This one to me just like nails it. Like we were like, well, we want a card. Like, what do we call it? Well, we'll call it There Will Be Carnage. Like, that's a genius idea. What is he doing? He's just effing up a whole bunch of security guards.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's just destroying everything, right? The kinetic motion, the action in here. Like, I love Mustachio Man's like terror. I feel like Josh has me figured out. Whenever you put some schmuck in the foreground with like a really scared expression on his face, he's like looking at you, being like, "Get me out of here."
Okay.
I just fall in love with it.
The top three like scared expression mooks is this guy, the guy from the She-Hulk.
The She-Hulk one, yeah.
What is that called?
It was the special
delivery.
Special delivery. But then my number one pick is the guy from the Crossbones card, the Hydra agent.
Oh yeah.
Have we shown that?
I don't think so. No, we haven't shown that one.
So,
we haven't shown that one.
I will say for like the card was done by Ross Taylor, a great artist. He captured everything really quick. The hardest part was that front mook. Like we asked him for 3 different revisions because he would look way too scared or not scared enough, or like he's like having a meltdown. It took a while to get that likeness down, but yeah, I love this piece a lot. Absolutely.
The best part is he's not attacking anybody with his hands. He's just.
Oh yeah, it's all tendrils.
It's all tendrils.
He probably just won the award for best superhero landing in MCP. Like he just came into the middle of that pod of like guards and boom, everybody started moving. So
just done.
He's a human frag grenade. He just lands.
Very true. What's next, Schick? Are we going back to
what is next? What is next? I believe coming up is one of my favorite characters, and I know one that I gave you the most grief about getting right.
Oh boy, here we go.
Quite a bit. But it is the one and the only Black Cat.
That's right.
One of my favorite characters from the Spider-Man comics. I love when writers and creative teams get the interplay between Black Cat and Peter Parker, right? The Felicia like Peter back and forth dialogue. I like the moments when they're in relationships together in previous storylines. The tension that they have, like the witty repartee, absolutely like just kills me. I love it. So I was super excited to get to work on this character and bring her into the game, and to just have her as part of my Spider team and everyone else's Spider team as well. And of course, I had a lot of feelings on the character art for this one. So, and I'm really excited to where this one wound up. I feel like it's really fun, playful, and yet, like serious kind of Black Cat. Dallas is showing off the mini right now. We put her in a backflip pose. Dallas can talk a little bit about that. I mean, I had that challenge. I think I threw that to Dallas too. I was like, I want to see her in a backflip that doesn't look goofy.
Yeah, and like that is, you just don't see that pose. And we went through, 5 iterations. We did like little test dollies. Like we went through so many versions of that to get it to feel right. So and then there's just a lot, just an interesting challenge to do something that's not typically seen in miniatures.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing was, this was the case where the miniature was done before the art, and not to say too much, but her rules are incredible, the miniature is incredible, and I knew, so there was a lot of pressure on me to get the art right, like a lot. So I worked with Gary.
This art is right. This is
well, we worked really hard. Gary Daniels and I worked really hard. So the first thing I wanted to do was to sort of go through some of the more iconic Black Cat pieces and artists, right, like Frank Cho or Adam Hughes, and sort of capture that, but in the MCP style. And then another thing that's really important for us is Black Cat is a character that traditionally is very easy to sort of do very pin-up-y or kind of sexualized, to be honest. And that's a part of her character. But for us, for MCP, is really trying to empower our female characters, right? To kind of show how badass they are, right? And how, like, awesome they are. So we worked really hard to focus more on the fun, playful aspects of her personality, of her face, of her pose, more than just sort of like the sort of traditional, the sexy kind of stuff. And I think we wound up in a really cool place, but it took a lot of push and pull. And honestly, this was super, super fun. And I think it's just a win all around. I'm really, really pleased with this piece.
And this is another character which I'm a little sad you don't have the injured art on, because it was one
that
I pushed you really hard on. So we talk about, here she's like playful and she's confident and she's like, okay. It's a little bit of that Deadpool moment where like she's just leaping around, giving people bad luck and having a good time. The flip side on the injured art is like, she's beat up and she's scuffed up, but like she looks serious. She's gonna rip your face off with her claws, and I love the ferocity in that, and like the power that you sense from the fact that this character's on the back foot, but she's not gonna back down. And to me, that's like Black Cat all the way. One of my favorite storylines from the more recent times with her is when she kind of takes over the criminal syndicate in New York, and she becomes like super no nonsense, and like she just beats the crap out of Miles Morales, and there's so many good moments, and it's like that's the character that I really wanted to portray in that kind of side, to see that stuff. And so it was very exciting, and I'm really happy with where this turned out. And the other thing that we should mention is I believe Gary Daniels did all of the Spider-Man wave art, so it all ties together kind of, because again, one of the things I think you've done very well and that we try to approach the art with is that we try to make things cohesive within blocks. So we have different styles and we have different artists who come in and put their own kind of spin on the MCP style, but at the same time, when we do like a cohesive wave like the Amazing Spider-Man wave, which you saw in the video, we like to have that feel like it all came out of the same creative team run. So we'll get the same artist to work on it and stuff like that.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. So like Gary Daniels said all of these, and it is true, right? For each wave and each block and each sort of like theme, we try to get the same artist or artists, even if it's multiple artists, that they complement each other, right? That they seem like they could be, maybe like sometimes it could be like a fill-in artist or something, like the colors are similar or their approach to line is similar. So you will see that Gary Daniels is pretty important to the Spider-Man look. Like Carlos Cabrera is really important to the X-Men stuff, which you might see a little bit of that later on as well.
Spoilers on the spoilers! Come on.
Oh, who knows?
All right,
so
should we move on to the boy, the one?
Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Because I have feelings. You have
feelings. All right. So, if you couldn't tell from the video that you saw, or you missed the video, go check it out. I've been told it's on YouTube right now, so you can go rewatch it to your heart's content. Or you can join Dallas and I after this for our painting Spider-Man hobby hang. We're going to be painting the brand new version of Spider-Man. He's right there. This is the Amazing Spider-Man. So what we wanted to do is the core set Spider-Man, as we've talked about before on previous panels and stuff, that represents kind of the classic teenage Peter Parker. So he's still kind of new to his abilities. He's learning. He's still a very powerful character and capable in his own right, but he hasn't really mastered, everything that he has. He's not the pinnacle of Spider-Man yet. And Amazing Spider-Man was definitely our step into, this is Peter Parker at his most powerful. Yep. This is the Peter Parker that a lot of people, I think of from the modern comic book run. So he's he's in his mid-20s. He has most everything figured out. He is the icon that all of the other Spider folk kind of aspire to be. This is great power, great responsibility, Peter Parker. Yep. And so we pushed the miniature in ways that I didn't even think was possible, in terms of the sculpting and all of that stuff. And of course the art had to come through in the same way. And I'm just really pleased with this piece and this whole wave. But bringing Spider-Man, my boy Peter Parker, into the limelight like we always knew we were going to, was an incredible journey.
Yeah, I mean, Dallas, I remember we were doing pose sketches for the miniature, and Dallas just had this bananas idea that no one thought could work, as it usually happens. And then cut to like a year later, and now we're looking at a miniature that is almost exactly like Dallas's had, napkin sketch, and it's freaking incredible. Look at the video. It's unbelievable. And then for the art, so the big thing for the art was, this is really important for me. I love Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is, to a lot of people, the iconic Marvel superhero, right? So it was really important to capture him at his prime in the art style in a very specific way. So obviously artists like Steve Ditko or John Romita, those are sort of the prime examples of Spider-Man. For me, I really wanted to push more on someone who was really important to me when I was growing up, an artist named Mike Waringo, the late great Mike Waringo, who did the majority of the Spider-Man runs in the 90s. That's who we modeled the anatomy and sort of the proportions of. Shout out to the late Mike Waringo. We gave him Steve Ditko eyes because Waringo's eyes, he would make it a lot more bigger, sort of like way more dynamic. And not to say you won't ever see a big-eyed Spider-Man. You never know. Like in an infinite timeline, you will see the big full Todd, like just crazy, like almost entire mask-being eye Spider-Man. But we want a little bit more sort of like.
You need to calm down there.
It'll happen. It's gonna happen.
It's crazy. All right. So if you want to learn more about Amazing Spider-Man, all I'm gonna say is you definitely want to check out the panel on Saturday. If you want to learn more about, say, Carnage, you definitely want to check out the MCP panel on Saturday. So let's move on. Another really big thing about Spider-Man and what makes him a great character is his cast of villains. His rogues gallery, if you will. And so this was another really exciting opportunity, like we talked about the Amazing Spider-Man wave, was to get a lot of those iconic characters that make Spider-Man great also into MCP. And so we had a lot of fun. We're going to burn through these characters probably faster than honestly I would want to, but we're on a timeline and we have horrible taskmasters.
That's true.
So the first one up is, of course, Kraven the Hunter. I will never, ever in my life forget talking about how to pose and draw Kraven from Josh's explanations of what a hunter looks like. Every time we talk about Kraven, all Josh would be like, he's like a hunter. And then we'd be like, what does a hunter do, Josh? And it would be...
Yeah, like this is we get asked a lot, do we ever pose for the miniatures or the art? And this is a case where, yes, the final art for Kraven the Hunter is a 1-for-1 pose of me, just a photo of me doing what I demanded a hunter looks like in the wild.
If anyone has questions about what hunters look like, this is the quintessential Josh Cologne hunter pose, as posed by Josh Cologne. So
I mean, he's sensing, he's looking around.
He's. I mean, I look at this now and I can't not see a hunter. It's just
a hunter.
The life that we live.
And we're going really fast, but I will say the miniature is incredible. And there's a little detail on the miniature's base, on like the tactical piece. I love it so much, and I just love it.
We did talk a lot about like what his rock, his tactical rock, as the community loves to call it, should be. And we came up with the idea that, well, he always fights Spider-Man in a zoo, like Central Park Zoo. So we put a "Do Not Feed the Animal" sign on the rubble that he's jumping off of.
The sculptor Dave Kidd just threw that on there, and I pitched it up to you guys, and y'all were just like
Done.
genius.
Done.
let's jump to the next amazing Spider-Man villain, the Lizard. So again, I think this was one where, much like all of the other miniatures, we were joking around and talking about what is his pose, and I was like, just have him jumping out of a sewer with like water exploding everywhere, and a big old manhole cover like shooting out, and everyone was like, "Hurdy her, that's impossible." And then everyone got quiet like they always do. And all of a sudden, like, Dal starts sketching, and I'm looking at it, and Marco's looking at it, and Josh is looking at it. And it's like, we can do this. I think we can figure this out. And so you have a lizard bursting out of the sewer with water going everywhere. He was actually, this miniature was done before Crystal.
This was done before Crystal, yeah.
And so the water on Crystal is actually beholden to the work that was done on Lizard and the things that we figured out.
Yep.
So if you like the crystal water effects, you can thank Lizard for being the one. And we've lost Josh again. Josh just keeps running away over and over again. And he's back.
And I'm back. I did it.
And he's back. You did it. Josh, stop.
I know. It's just the worst. But no, like, this was another case where the miniature was so good, I had to make sure the art, like, at least tried to hold up as much as possible. And so we tried to capture that ferociousness of the lizard. And it's just really fun to draw and to illustrate, right? He's just a big giant lizard guy in a lab coat. Like, he's the best. Like, you know.
So here's another Team Tactic card piece, because I want to stick on the Spider-Man train, so I'm breaking Josh's like thing going on here. This was another one of my crazy demands of Josh as we were working on Team Tactic cards. I was like, Josh, we have to do the Grand Illusion for Mysterio as a Team Tactic card. And he's like, what does that mean? And I was like, it's like, imagine Mysterio's bubble head, but all the spider people are inside of it, and they're fighting ghost Mysterios. And all of this has to fit on a 3x2.5 like LCG card. And he just kind of looked at me. He's like, what are you doing? And he went off and came back with this amazing piece for the Team Tactic card. And of course, the Mysterio miniature looks super awesome as well. But this was a super fun piece. It came out pretty much as I'd hoped. And we'll talk a little bit more about this again on the panel, but it was a really fun piece. And I think it really captures that Mysterio craziness that's going on, every time Mysterio does stuff.
Two things. This is probably the first or second piece I ever art directed, so it was like trial by fire, trying to figure out this madness. And also, this was done several months before Spider-Man Far From Home came out. So like I finished this piece, and then we saw Spider-Man with Mysterio, and we saw the scene, and we're like, oh my god, we nailed it. So yeah.
And then the last piece of Spider-Man art I think we have to show off from this wave is Genetic Recombinator. So, of course, we really wanted to throw something back to Doc Connors and the Lizard and his work. And so we kind of thought up this piece of like, okay, let's show the scientist and kind of give a thing of how Doc Connors came into being as the Lizard. It's a really fun card in the game. And again, just a really fun kind of interior panel piece that tells a story and helps develop the characters and the story that happens on the table as you play these Team Tactic cards.
There's something about this piece that has that like classic comic book feel. Like the colors are very new and very modern, but there's something very classic about this piece. I just love this piece.
Yeah, I was a little worried with the brief because it was very subdued. It's like Doc Connors using the machine on a lizard. I'm like, how to make this exciting? But the artist, Scott Cohn, just nailed it out of the park with the colors and the composition and the mood lighting. It's just great. Totally great.
Let's talk about the weirdest card that we've ever made with no comments. I'm just going to say its name. It's Fearful Symmetry. And that's it. No, that's all we need to say about it.
We don't need to say anything else. If you've read the comics, you know what Fearful Symmetry is. And
you can imagine what it does in the game. So
yeah.
Here you are. And I promised Pagani that we'd say nothing else about this.
We
this piece.
Say nothing else.
So
it's coming. This is a real Team Tactic card, you guys. This is a real Team Tactic card.
I love this Team Tactic card. I just do.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna go just because we're on a roll here and we're having fun. I'm gonna go to probably one of my favorite pieces that we've done thus far in all of the art. Which is this one, Dark Siege.
Yeah.
And this piece was another one of my crazy, like, I want all these characters and I want them doing this thing. And it honestly, like, this is probably like my dream piece if I had to just pick characters to throw into a composition. Like, this is mine. You got Ghost Rider, Blade, Dr. Voodoo, and Moon Knight. I'm good. I'm good. Your Sons of Midnight are just like right there.
Yeah, this is by Gary Daniels, and this was a bear trying to capture these four larger than life characters of the Midnight Suns in this big epic duel, mystical duel. It was a lot of work, a lot of back and forth, but yeah, it's also one of my favorites. It's a lot of people inside AMG's favorite too, and I'm really pleased with it.
There's a lot of reasons why this is one of my favorite pieces.
I love like whatever Ghost Rider's doing in the background is clearly not helping, but it looks really cool.
No, he's just like Blade's like fighting, like Dr. Voodoo's like casting a mystic spell, Moon Knight, and then like Ghost Rider's in the back just like YOLO.
He's just like, I bet I could jump that 20 row of buses. I'm gonna do it. Johnny Blaze all the way. All right, so I showed my favorite. I'm going to go to what Dallas Kemp has said is his favorite piece that we've done in, well, really, I think ever. So I'll let Dallas talk about this piece.
There's some new ones. There's some new ones that are coming that I'm like, oh, you know what? That might be my favorite piece. I don't know. I love this piece. Oh my God. I just, there's just something about this piece, the stylization of Wolverine, that pink purple background, the black lines going up, like you got X-23 Wolverine, Domino just being total badasses. Like I just love this piece. I can't help it.
So this piece is called Dirty Work. It comes in the Cable and Domino box. And it is one of the X-Force specific cards. So we wanted to get the X-Force like members in there, and we just wanted to show them wreck and stuff. And yeah, I agree. Like the whole atmosphere of this piece is amazing. I think Josh and the artist really just killed it. It's definitely wall worthy. Like I would put this on my wall, 100%.
This is 100% just a poster. Just I just love that. I could just look at this piece all day.
Yeah, it's what was really important about this piece was to capture sort of the mood of both what X-Force team would be, also what the card does, right? We're going to talk about what the card does, but it's definitely getting the work. It's dirty work. It's getting the work done, and they're definitely getting the work done.
And staying on the X-Force roll with Cable and Domino, you want to talk about atmosphere. I remember describing or writing out the art brief for this as we were talking about what I wanted out of the tactic cards, and I was like, think of a really dark, far future where robots hunt mutants and Cable's sneaking around and they're in the background and you can just feel it. You can hear the dun 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 music in the background. And this piece came in and I was like, you nailed it. Perfect.
Yeah, this was basically like this would be like the opening scene of Cable's comic, AMG comic, before he does the time travel bit, right? Like he's been hunted by Sentinels and he needs to get to the other side of that area to try time travel back and save everyone. I love this piece, and then the composition that the artist did was great. The glowy bits on each Sentinel. There's a nice triangle with Cable's eye, and it just leads the viewer's eye in a really lovely way. I love this piece.
And these two are the same artist, correct?
Yes, Emiliana Buzankinento, if I remember correctly. She is amazing, and she does incredible work.
Yeah, and both these cards are awesome, not just because they have amazing art, but because the effects of the cards really define X-Force as an affiliation. And so you're going to get to see them a lot. So nailing the atmospherics and the pieces was really important to us because of how important these cards are to that affiliation's identity.
Plus anything with Sentinels is just cool.
Yes,
anything with giant murderous robots is cool as well. So I know that Josh is really excited about this next piece that we're going to put up. He was very proud of this, and I think that pride translated into the Mr. Sinister pose that we see here.
Yeah, man. This was another one of my really early ones with the great artist Scott Cohn, and this is one of the first ones where I felt like, okay, I'm kind of hitting my stride, art directing stuff. Cloning Banks, I believe it's what it's called, and what it does, I'll leave it to the fans' imagination because, man, it's just everything Mr. Sinister is so weird. I can't wait for you guys to get your hands on it. It's just so so bizarre. But the colors, the mood, just how happy Mr. Sinister is. He's having a good day at work. You know what I mean? Like he's just really pleased with himself.
It's 5 o'clock. It's 5 o'clock. It's been an 8-9 hour day. He's really overcome some sort of, organic cellular distribution conundrum.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, heck yeah, man.
I honestly think that I've seen everyone at AMG do this pose at one point or another at 5 o'clock at the end of the day when something's come in.
Dude,
it's like we made it again. This is
the job well done. Like you come in and you're like, Josh, how's that art piece? And he's just standing there in this style, like he's like, behold my majesty.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Behold my art.
My
art. All right, so we're going to go to another piece of tactic card art, which I absolutely adore and would totally blow up and put on my wall as well. And this one is called Air Force, and we've lost Josh yet again. He's so excited. He keeps coming. There he is. He's back.
I did it.
He's back. In and out. We had zero issues. This prevalent, Josh, until you joined. So here you go.
They're trying to silence me. Is that
what they're trying to do?
Josh, I'm with Agent Orange real quick. Negasonic Teenage Warhead. We need some Negasonic Teenage Warhead and some art.
Ooh. That is a wonderful idea, and I will add it to the list. I honestly love that idea.
The best part about oh my god, the backstory to that character, if you don't know, is amazing.
So Air Force. Which is right now. I'm a sucker for like super saturated, poppy, like in your face colors. And so I really enjoy a lot of the stuff that comes out of Dallas and Josh's like art workshops and stuff. This one to me is just so great. The art brief was really simple. It was War Machine and Captain Marvel are fighting off weird alien Kree nonsense. And then this kind of starts to show up in form in sketches and everything. And I'm just like, this only gets better and better. The more colors that got added. This is one of the ones that we really wanted to dive into the backstory of these characters. Captain Marvel and War Machine, Rhodey Rhodes, have a pretty strong relationship in the comics, especially, post or pre-Civil War II.
Mm-hmm.
And so we kind of wanted to show that team up in fantastic art, and there we go. So,
yeah, you can tell when an artist is having fun with a piece. And Tyler Walpole absolutely had a blast with this piece because the colors, the energy, the mood, it's just really great. And I'm always trying to find ways to show different sides of Captain Marvel, who happens to be probably our most featured character in Team Tactics card art. Just fun fact, she's probably pound for pound in the most number of Team Tactic cards to date for Marvel Crisis Protocol.
For good reason. She's an amazing character. I'm not going to say that I play favorites, but I totally play favorites from time to time.
Totally play favorites.
And I can never get enough like cool Captain Marvel art for sure. So, all right. Well,
super cool.
we've got 6 minutes left, and we have I think a couple of things. So I'm gonna let Josh have the magic, the moment. Because he picked the art. So Josh wanted to be the first ones to show you the next couple of pieces that we're going to do. So I'm just going to click go, and and let the Saturday morning cartoon music play in your head.
Yeah, when Schick told me we were doing this character, I was so excited. She is amazing, and it was really important for us to get to do her pretty much as soon as possible after the release of the X-Men. So she is Jean Grey by the great Carlos Cabrera. And so for the X-Men stuff, we make sure that we go a little bit more simple, a little bit more stylized, but we still want to get that 90s look, not just from the costume, but from the posing, the posturing, the attitude, the style. And it's also a slight homage to the miniature, which you will see. Spoiler alert. But honestly, this was just a really fun, just a great piece to do and a lot of fun. And I think you're going to really enjoy her Schick's translation of her into the game.
I mean, I enjoyed the translation of her hair into the art, to be honest. Like, that hair is not messing around. It's not messing around, Josh.
And then Schick goes, well, and this is, he comes to me and he goes, who should we add to the Jean Grey box?
I don't think I asked who we should.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure I came to you and I said, this is who we're going to add to the Jean Grey box.
Okay, but we had a conversation earlier than that about who is a good villain, right? But the caveat was it has to be a villain, right? Because people are going to be like, there's a certain other character that's very popular who's kind of like a tweener who can go both sides. But I know Schick really wanted a bad guy, like someone who's like straight up a bad guy and doesn't change sides. And I'm a big fan of the Grant Morrison X-Men run, and I pitched this character. And then, yes, later on, Schick comes to me and says, we have added Cassandra Nova to Marvel Crisis Protocol in the Jean Grey box to sort of complement Jean Grey. If you know anything about her, she's sort of Xavier's sort of twin / clone / alien / really just weird origin story with Cassandra Nova. But she's super evil, and she uses her psychic powers and telekinetic powers in really weird and almost horrific ways. And she's just a really good foil for the X-Men, and she's great.
To be honest, the real impetus, or like the thing that really sold me on Cassandra as a great kind of counterpoint to Jean, was the X-Men Red run.
Right.
Yeah.
If you read X-Men Red, just kind of like the Jean versus Cassandra like interplay and the way that story played out and everything, I was like, we have to do a Cassandra and Jean like kind of duo pack, because one, I think Cassandra is one of those really cool sort of deep cuts that isn't as recognizable, but in the lore and just in the characterization and stuff is just so, like you said, she's so weird and so perfectly X-Men because of her weirdness, that it just seemed like a great one. And I always love finding really evil, like super evil characters to stick in, not morally gray characters, just pure evil characters.
Yeah, she is evil and powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Well, that was Schick's mandate, right? Like, because, at the end of the day, it's always Schick's call. But he said, yes, we love Emma Frost, you guys. Like, we are big Emma Frost fans. Like, don't worry about that. Like, we love Emma Frost. But we wanted to go with someone who was, like, straight up a bad guy, and someone who, again, is a really great foil for Jean. And Cassandra Nova was the obvious choice, and we're really excited to see you guys see what we've come up with her.
This is not evocative of the miniature.
It is not. This personality is more of her sort of planning deviousness. The miniature is a little bit more kinetic. That is true. Creative director Dallas Kemp, thank you so much. Thank you. They can't all be flying around all the time, you guys.
Sometimes you got to show them in that contemplative. Again, the villain sides are often very they're very proud. They're very in control. The injured sides, less so.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, that brings us to the end of all of the art. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope that you found this experience illuminating. We hope you're as excited as we are for all this great art, and maybe got a little bit of a sneak peek into our weird process. You've effectively sat in now on one of our creative art meetings. This is pretty much how it goes. Be sure to stay tuned. In just 15 minutes, Dallas Kemp and myself will be back for our hobby hang, where we will be painting Amazing Spider-Man, the brand new Spider-Man, his miniature. We're going to be painting that up, hanging out, talking a little bit about shop, a little bit about the design philosophy and development of this super awesome mini, and some other stuff. So if you want to just hang out, chill, have some fun, grab a miniature yourself, paint with us. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a great time, and that's how we're going to close out day one of Mini Stravaganza, so don't miss it. And otherwise, be sure to check back tomorrow for another amazing day full of great streaming action. We've got more hobby stuff, more panels, all the good stuff coming in. So don't miss that as well if you're not sticking around. But be sure to stick around for Hobby Hang. We're going to have a blast. Josh, Dallas, thank you so much for joining on this amazing panel.
Thank
Great
you
work
for
as
having
always,
us.
Josh. And I'm excited to see what you bring out for the next Mini Stravaganza MCP art panel on Mini Stravaganza 2, Electric, X-Men Boogaloo.
I feel like now, the next Mini Stravaganza, we should just freeform design a tactic card together.
Oh my god.
Oh, he's like really, really cracking it up. You're cranking it up. All right, folks, take care. We will see you in 15 for Hobby Hang painting Amazing Spider-Man up next.
Come paint with us.